again.
We are back again. Yeah, this is becoming a habit. People think I've rejoined for real. That's it. Anyway.
It was all a dream.
It was all a dream. Yeah. What's happening, bro? Are you all right?
All good. All good, Mark.
All good. How was school? Yeah, no, yeah. Let's not talk about work.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
Exactly,
but look,
exactly.
It's away days. We are back, and I tell you what, we've got D in the green room ready to come on. But welcome, firstly, to everybody in the chat. Everyone is streaming in. Great to see everybody, especially Lisa Ahmad in and around things as always.
Yeah, she'll be busy watching the match as usual.
Definitely.
Man City Spurs is on. She'll be keeping us informed. Yeah. She's
it's a big one.
She's very good at double jobbing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Exactly.
But look, Mark, I want to come to you because it has been a very, very busy day for Newcastle.
Yep.
Firstly, we had the news that Chris Wood will be leaving the Northeast at some point and heading to Nottingham Forest on loan with a view to buy. And look, just again, we talked a little bit about it last night, about it possibly happening, but it's happening. Like it seems like it's a done deal. What are your thoughts?
From what I've read, it's a good deal. Obviously, I think most Newcastle fans. The first question they're asking is, we must have a replacement lined up. I suppose my view on that is, I would think so. We're not stupid. I think we know that. Look, Callum Wilson has always potential to get a niggle or a strain, and we lose him for a period of time. I thought it was interesting last night. Daz kind of made the point of maybe as we change things up and get into next season, maybe Wilson will be more of a bit player, which I thought was an interesting comment.
Yeah.
Isaac seems to be kind of getting himself back into it. Scored the goal at the weekend. So I think for us, from all chat, from everything I've seen on Twitter, it's a $5 million payment for the loan deal itself, and a 15 million option at the end. So for those who have moaned and groaned about the 25 million we paid for him, and the argument about what he is and isn't getting paid, I think if it's a 5 million loan fee and then 15 million if he meets the criteria on the deal, to get that 20 mil back out of a 25 or even 15 out of a 25, I think it's really, really good business for Newcastle. Really good business.
We are laughing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really good piece of business, and actually, it just shows Newcastle going in the right direction, getting money back.
Moving on to phase 2, as somebody said to me this afternoon.
Definitely, I think you said it actually, didn't you?
It might have been me. Yeah, possibly it was me. Yeah.
I think it was.
Was it? Well, was me? Okay, I just remember it was in the chat. Was that me? Was it? Oh, man, I don't have many good moments like that, but obviously I had one today.
You definitely did.
Yeah, look, we chatted last night. Look, for those that didn't watch last night or weren't with us last night, I was one that kind of wanted Wood to sign when he was at Burnley. Pete will tell you, I sung his praises, said he was the kind of shithousing centre forward I thought we need, hold up the play, give us a different dimension, and he's done that. And actually, one of the comments I seen today on Twitter was a very, very good point. He's been this year's Daryl Murphy. Came in, it's been solid, done a job. I wish the lad all the best. I hope he goes on to Forest and he knocks Man U out the Carabao, and but he doesn't get to the final and then give us the heebie-jeebies. So best of luck to the lad. He's done a really good job, but it's a really, really good deal for us. Really good deal.
Definitely. And like you said, you were hoping that we would move on very, very quickly. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but it looks like we're not messing around, because Fabrizio Romano's confirmed tonight that we have put a 16 million bid in for this man over from Brazil, Matheus Franca, midfielder. Look, one word to describe that news as it came out, Mark.
Yeah, he's an exciting talent. I think obviously we were looking to do the deal for the lad that went to Chelsea. And look, fair enough. Chelsea don't have their own scouting plans or any kind of, buying plan. They're just whoever gets mentioned in Twitter, they seem to be going off. Todd seems to be going off and buying. Look, let him crack on with that. I'm sure that'll come back to haunt him. But I think this lad is the diamond in the rough. This is the lad that I think for me is the better player. I think he's got all the dimensions we need. He's young. He's robust. He can play ball. He's good on both feet.
That wouldn't be bad, would it?
No, exactly. Yes. I think it'll be a quality signing. I think 16 mil was the number that they wanted. So it looks like we've matched that. We know that the policy from Dan Ashworth is that we are looking from youth. You heard him talking on the match there the other week. That's what we're pursuing. If there's a deal there for other players that enhance the team as it is now, they'll look to do it. And we've always said, we say it on most of the shows, if the deal is right for Newcastle and the player is right, the deal will be done.
Yeah.
So this is a future talent. And again, we talked about the likes of Franca. We talked about Fresnada last night. These are players. Would he come while Trippier's there? Does he want to sit on the bench? Absolutely, these guys want to come because they see the project, they see where we are, they see where we're going to be in 2 to 5 years' time. So why these talents, absolutely, they want to come. So yeah, good deal. Let's get it done. Let's get it over the line. Let's get the window cracking. We need to get going.
Mart is right. Let's get it cracking, and I think once that deal goes through, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Exactly. We'll be doing 10 hours on deadline days, so we better be getting something going.
100%. That is absolutely right. Spot on, Mart. And look, we'll touch on Matheus Franca a little bit later on in the show, but we are here for away days, and of course, we are always looking to, when we're looking at the next game, massive game in my opinion, we'll get into it. We always get the opposition's view because that is the most important part. And look, he's missed the last couple of these away days. He sent his troops in for these away days, but we want this guy on because he's the main man. Welcome back to D from back of the nest. Welcome in, my man. How are you?
What's going on? It's good to be back, man. It's good to be back. It's been quite a while. Before I was on this channel, I think it was still Mike Ashley, relegation battle, and times have changed. I know we speak a lot, Pete, but since I've been on the channel, I mean, lots of things have changed. Lots. But thanks for having me on.
Nah, pleasure.
Rob, good to see you, man.
And you've not met Mark, so Mark.
Nice to meet you,
absolutely. Yeah, nice to meet you, Dave. Fair play, mate. Good to meet you, pal. Looking forward to a good chat.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No problem, man.
Now, look, first and foremost, 24 hours ago, you were preparing for a big game at Selhurst Park against Man United. And if I'm right in thinking, you were there, weren't you? You were there.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, always there, always repping. And look, a fantastic 1-1 draw, a late, superb free kick from Elise to salvage a point. And I've got to be honest, D, there are a lot of Newcastle fans that were jumping for joy when that ball hit the back of the net, as well as you guys in Selhurst Park. But look, just talk to us about that result, about the performance. What did that mean for you in your season so far?
Look, our season so far has been so inconsistent. It's just laughable. And that's not down to just the manager in itself. I mean, we didn't back Vieira as much as we did in the first season. We regressed as a squad, and we have some very good players, but some very average players that probably wouldn't get into some championship sides that's trying to get promoted. So it's been what we've expected so far. And, we're still in a very comfortable position in terms of 12th in the league. And even if we lost yesterday's game, we'll still remain 12th, which shows the job that Vieira has been doing so far. But in terms of yesterday's game, I thought that game was very important because we've had a difficult run of games, and we still do. We've got you guys, of course, coming up on a weekend, and then we've got Man United once again. The following week after the FA Cup games are done. So we needed to pick up a point. And in this game, I'll be honest, a few days ago when we done a match preview on our channel, I wasn't really looking forward to this game. I was like, Man United, I think 9 games unbeaten or 9-game win streak, something crazy like that. They're red on form, Rashford's on form. But then the reason for that was down to basically Vieira selecting some of the players that he selects week in, week out. If he selected them players, I was saying there's no way. It's going to be the same result. Well, you don't expect different result with the same approach that you do. But he changed it. When I saw the lineup, I was like, you know what? I'll be surprised if you don't get something out of this game, because these are some of the players that I want to see us play. And thankfully, in the end, that did happen. Of course, it was a fantastic free kick by Elise. But overall, it was a much positive performance. I mean, we played a midfielder in midfield. It sounds crazy, but that's the type of season we've been having. We haven't been playing players in their position.
Sounds like a Bruce. Sounds like
I was just going to say, how Steve Bruce is that?
But that's down to a lack of signings, though, because we had Conor Gallagher last year that everyone knew about how good he was at Palace. We lost Conor Gallagher, we lost Kouyaté to Nottingham Forest, and we lost James McArthur down to injury. So technically, we got rid of 3 midfielders, and we only brought in 1 in Doucouré, who's very good. And all season long, we'll be starting Jeffrey Schlupp in midfield. Now, let's be honest. I mean, what other Premier League club does Jeffrey Schlupp start in midfield if they're trying to finish in the top 10? None. Even some relegation battling teams, I don't see Jeffrey Schlupp starting for Wolves or any other team. So, look, it's been a difficult season. Very important point, because I feel like that could be the foundation building up to this game, and it's giving me a bit of boost because we've had fair share of results against you guys so far this season. We've faced you twice already, and in both games it's been 0-0s as far as I'm aware, away from home.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
In the League Cup, we lost, of course, in the penalties, and then in the league, it was 0-0. I know we got lucky in the league. I mean, that Tarek Mitchell push, which got.
We're not going to let you forget that.
Yeah,
not going to let you forget that.
Got disallowed. I know we got a bit lucky, but saying that, as Palace fans looking at this game, we have managed to get results against a very good side, and now we're coming off that last-minute draw against Manchester United, one of the most informed teams. If he keeps the squad as it is. You never know. You're at home. We could pick up another point. I'm not saying win, but pick up another point. That'd be massive for us.
Mark, what do you make of Crystal Palace? Not just this season, but just as a team. In the build up to this game at the weekend, are you worried by us travelling to Sellers Park?
Do you know the funny thing? I'm actually a little bit worried about this game. I know we're in good form, and obviously, we've got the best defense in the league. Much to those that were talking about Man United last night. You actually can see goals we don't. But it does worry me, because I think Palace have enough to trouble us, and I think the game last night, the likes of Eze was on the bench. I know there's a bit of stick from the lad that scored last night. Hey, listen, big shout out to Mark Goldbridge. You don't win games if you don't stop goals going in, mate, by the way, so stop tweeting shit out. But yeah, do you know what it is? It's one of those games, because we're obviously looking at a run of games and we're going, yeah, we're not going to get beat. Botman's in defense. Fabian Schär is not only gorgeous, but he's just stopping goals. Nick Pope is indefensible, and Burger King love him. But you look at this game away at Palace, and you kind of go, do you know what? Fuck this. There's a chance we might lose. It's just one of those games that you kind of look at. But I think, if you take the bit of messing and the bit of heart out of it, in my head, I think there's a chance it's a draw. I think it's another draw, because I think it's two good sides. I think Vieira is really, really good for Palace. A lot of my family are from London. My cousin, who was a diehard Palace fan, unfortunately passed away last year, but he was at Palace's game, and he would tell you he said actually hate playing Newcastle, because you just don't know what you're going to get. And I think it's, for me, looking at the game the weekend, I think it's the same kind of thing. I kind of know what we're going to do, but when I look at Palace, you're kind of going, who's turning up? Is it the Palace that turned up last night against Man United, or is it going to be the Palace that falls apart and is a bit all over the place? So I think, for me, the thing with Palace to get them to that top 10 is just that consistency and keeping that team, that same team balance, I guess. And I was a bit surprised with some of the players that were left out last night. And as you said, playing the players out of position and stuff like that. That's the thing that would be the only thing I would question with Vieira at the minute. But I think as a manager, he's doing a really good job, and I think it's good to see Palace doing well, especially last night from our perspective. Obviously, I hope you don't turn up this weekend. But yeah, no, I think you're going right places. I think Vieira is definitely the man to keep you going that way. But maybe a couple of additions over the next couple of windows. I think Palace will be there and thereabouts. Certainly give enough to trouble Newcastle at the weekend. But my heart says maybe a draw between the two.
Yeah, look, I don't know about you, Pete, but for me, anyways, as a Palace perspective, of course, you guys want to win this game because you're trying to push up the table, get the Champions League spot. Yeah. But in all honesty, I don't know how to describe it, but I had a theory in my head that if we can get something out of this game, if he makes some changes, then that's going to give the fan base a boost, which it did do yesterday. Sellers Park was a bit better than it was all season long. And also, it's going to give the players a boost. The way that game ended, I just feel like it just sets us up perfectly to get a point, at least a point. I honestly will be happy with a point at this point because one, you're a very good side, and two, we just haven't had that consistency. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, we will go get a result somewhere, and then next game we'll lose, and that's been the frustrating thing. But based on the changes that he's made, and if he keeps with them changes, I'm actually, without getting too ahead of us, I'm optimistic that we can get a point out of this game, and I think that's maybe literally, if you guys probably want Man United to win, because in a funny way, because going into our game, it sets you up perfectly because we've been charity FC. I mean, we just give it away. If you're struggling or if you're doing great, it doesn't matter. We'll give you the 3 points. That's what we do. Chelsea, they only had 2 wins in the last 10 games. Face Palace get the win. Basically every other side has been struggling. Even Forest before, when they were struggling, they beat us. So that's the type of team we've been. But because he's made these changes finally, and it's good. Saying that, with right now, and honestly, Pete, I told you before jumping on as well, I've been extremely busy all day, and it's with work and it's with Palace as well. Right now, it's such a weird time being a Palace fan because we have both of our owners literally fighting over each other. We've got this game coming up as well. We've got Steve Parish and John Texer, who's an American investor, who they're sending messages to each other via the media. So another report just came out saying that Texer is not happy with Parish's run of the club day to day. And then you see replies, and then you see that it's kind of weird being a Palace fan right now. We've had no transfers in, which we desperately need, as I said, because Vieira's doing only so much he can do. This squad is not a top 10 squad. I mean, the fact that we're 12 is amazing to a certain extent because we got some bang average players and we haven't got enough depth in certain positions. So we need players. We have our owners arguing. We managed to get a point. That's the only positive out of it. But look, this season has, as a whole, it's just been a write-off for us. It really has. We're out the League Cup, of course. You guys knocked us out. FA Cup and the league. Honestly, I don't know what to really expect. I think it's going to be mediocre.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really glad that Mark talked about, this game being potential banana skin for Newcastle because even from before Christmas, I looked at the fixtures and I thought, to be honest, I thought Leicester would be a banana skin for us. It turned out it wasn't. But then I thought we'd win at Leeds comfortably. We didn't. I always felt we'd get something at Arsenal for some reason, and obviously we did. But I've always had Palace as a game that I thought would be really, really difficult. And even though we have got some wins recently at Selhurst Park, it's always a difficult place to go. I was there last season when really, other than the great goal from Callum Wilson, we didn't really show anything like we were really going to score. And Palace were the better team for large parts of that game. Obviously, we were waiting for our manager to come in. Eventually, Eddie Howe came in, so it was a difficult situation. But it's always a difficult place to go over the years. But then in my mind, I'm thinking we're a different Newcastle now. We set up differently. We are very hard to break down. Man United, like Mark said, and he's absolutely right, they do ship goals. They are a lot more open in situations. And you could see as the game went on, later on into the game, they became easier and easier to play against because they just became more and more open. It's almost like they got nervous.
They lose their shape as well.
Yeah.
They lose their shape.
Absolutely.
Very, very easily, yeah.
And
Casemiro is going to be a massive loss to them against Arsenal.
We could have potentially won the game yesterday, by the way, after the first goal. I know there were a few opportunities where if Wan-Bissaka, of course, he had to be him, and we know what he can do. If Wan-Bissaka wasn't there, I could see Wolf scoring, and there were times that we let ourselves down after we scored that goal with Elise. And by the way, this was in the 91st minute. It's such a wild game that after we scored that goal, we still had opportunities to potentially win the game, which pretty much sums up what happened. That's what I'm saying. We just desperately needed a goal. We desperately needed a point, and then after that, things started clicking a bit better. Now, saying that, Man United have a great defense as well. If you look at the defensive stats going into the game before yesterday's result, they were brilliant as well. And to be fair, we didn't cause them that many problems in open play, and I don't think we'll cause Newcastle that many problems as well. Potentially, I mean, we've got the players, but we're still. It's been that kind of a season where I don't know who's going to start up front. Honestly, I think he might switch up the strike option, and that could play an influence. But saying that, as long as we're solid defensively, and as the game goes on, maybe you guys try to push on to us and try to get the win. If we can hit you guys on a counter attack, similar to what we done kind of against Manchester United yesterday, even though we went one goal down, I think that's the most important thing. And plus, we changed our defense as well. Chris Richards from Bayern Munich, he started yesterday, and Rashford, one of the most informed players in the league, he pocketed him, and that was very positive to see because that was his first ever Premier League start by Richards.
Talk to us about Chris Richards, because you've been banging the drum for him for a while to be starting for you guys. And I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about him, but he's come in, and as you said last night, I thought he played really well. From what I saw. But yeah, just talk to us about him. Did you say you got him from Bayern Munich?
Yeah, so we got him from Bayern Munich in the summer, but pretty much as a depth option. But the problem is this season, Joachim Andersen and Mark Gay is the main two starters, but Joachim Andersen went out injured against Chelsea, and there's been a few other games where Joachim Andersen's missed, but for some reason, Patrick Vieira decided to think James Tompkins is a better option. To be fair with him, there were times where Richards was out injured, but for example, in the last game, in the Chelsea game, when Andersen went off the pitch, based on what Vieira said post-game yesterday, Richards was fit enough to come on that game as well. But he just hasn't had that many opportunities due to injuries and due to Joachim Andersen and Mark Gay playing. But he's a fantastic youngster. He's got pace. He's strong. He's good in the air as well. As I said, just a summer signing. We haven't seen much of him. There's been appearances coming off the bench. But we desperately needed him to start because Joachim Andersen will be out for the Newcastle game as well. He's out for 3 weeks. And he pretty much showed his worth. I think he's a modern-day centre-half that's comfortable with the ball on his feet and is strong. And most importantly, you also need a bit of pace, which he does have. So from the signs yesterday against the quality of opposition that we played, he didn't look out of place. And I only expect him to improve from here on out because that was his first ever Premier League start.
Interesting. Now, I didn't realise. I thought that Anderson would be back fit, but he's obviously
no. He's out. He's out. He's got a calf injury, so he's out for 3 weeks. So he should be. He won't be appearing for the Newcastle game. But I'm fine with it because Richards, if he plays like he did against Manchester United, he seems like a perfect, capable centre half to fit in that space. But then again, before the game, I was worried about whether he played James Tompkins because Tompkins, even if it's against Newcastle, Man United, or whoever we face, that's a problem. That's a liability there. But now that he's actually putting Richards out there, I think it gives me that bit of faith and gives me that bit of confidence going into this game because I feel like he's a solid centre half.
I hope he plays Tompkins on Saturday.
Forget about that. Miss me with that. James Tompkins on Saturday. If Tompkins played yesterday, I'll tell you this as well. I think we're losing. Because there was times, I don't know if you guys watched the game, but there were times where Rashford ran in behind, Anthony ran in behind, and Richards, we know how fast Rashford is, but Richards caught up with the pace, and that's pretty much the difference maker because United are a very good counter-attacking team, but we had a centre-half that can match that pace. So, look, I don't think Vieira will be that foolish to drop Richards after the performance that he had and put James Tompkins. I don't think he'll do that, regardless of what happens. As long as Mark Gahey and Richards is fit, I think they're starting. And thankfully, it happened in the Man United game.
Yeah, I can see. I watched the highlights last night after we kind of finished up doing the show last night, and you're talking about Richards. I actually had no clue who he was. I didn't know who he was until I kind of looked at some of the stats on LiveScore. I thought he looked a real prospect from what I've seen of him. He did keep Rashford very, very quiet. So I think he seems a very good young talent. The question I've got for you, D, is obviously you scored the free kick, which we all know De Gea's a shite keeper anyway. But obviously there seems to be a good bit of stick floating around from Eloise because he didn't really celebrate. He's come back with a comment today saying, well, I'm just doing my job. The postman delivers the post. He doesn't celebrate when he puts it through the door. So what's the feel from the Palace fans when you kind of get that? Is that a bit of deadpan comedy from him or, what's the deal with that with him?
Elise is a interesting character. He's fairly quiet. There's been interviews as well where he talks to Palace TV and he's straight on to the point. I don't know. He's very unique. You have to know Elise to see that it wasn't very surprising that didn't celebrate. It doesn't mean that he's leaving. It doesn't mean that he has a sock or anything like that. That's just who Elise is. And some people are like, oh, come on, you have to celebrate. You have to do this. But everyone is built different. And Elise is it's an interesting character. Let me just say that. I don't know him personally, of course, so I can't say much about him. But from what I've seen from Palace and even in his youth level, apparently he was playing for Manchester City, I think Arsenal and other clubs, and there were concerns about potentially his attitude and all of them stuff. But I think he's misunderstood. He's just a quiet guy. He just doesn't really show emotions. I don't know why that is. I mean, if I scored against Man United on a live TV game against in the 91st minute, a goal like that, I'm taking my shirt off. I'm running into the stands. I'm doing everything. But everyone celebrates in their own unique way. And Elise just is more reserved, and that's who he is. So look, I'm not majorly concerned. But as neutrals, I expect the conversation to be going around because it does seem quite a bit weird. But as Palace fans, we already know, and we're not really surprised by it. Let's just say that.
Okay. I suppose next question, and we got a good few questions coming in. We've started a few. We'll get to some of them later on. But let's obviously address the elephant in the room. The penalty claim last night. Was it or wasn't it? My view is absolutely not a penalty. But let's get your take on it from a Palace perspective.
So when I was at the ground, because it was on the other end, I had no clue. I mean, I saw the United players getting frustrated. I had no clue. But watching at the replays, I guess it depends on the angle that you watch. The angles that I've seen, I think there is a slight bit of contact with the ball. And that's why it clearly wasn't given. But I guess it depends on what angle you see it on. But for me, some Palace fans are still saying we're lucky to get away with it. But I don't think so. I genuinely don't think it was a penalty like that. I feel like he got a bit of the ball, but I guess it depends on what TV.
I looked at it back a couple of times, D, and for me, he gets a touch on the ball. So
yeah, that's what I saw as well. That's why I was a bit shocked. That's why I'm a bit
It's only a toe,
that...
but you can see the ball change direction.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's McTominay. I think it is goes down then.
But that's enough. If there's changing direction, it's enough.
Listen, we don't need to talk about.
Like, let's be honest, what happened against Man City? I mean, come on, they're the last people right now to talk about VAR decision because they got away with one against Manchester City with the Rashford offside decision. So
we don't need to talk about penalties either. We got a little bit of stroke of luck the weekend as well. You know, fair play meter or double touch.
I saw that.
We were blessed.
But that's a weird rule, though. I don't. Why? What's the purpose of that rule? Because, all right, he's like, what negative does it have if he does hit the ball twice? Like, is it just me? It's kind of weird, that rule. I don't really understand what's the purpose.
I suppose the point of the one that we had at the weekend was if it hadn't double touched off the other foot, Pope was going the right way. Yeah. So the question's raised: does he save it? Does he not save it?
Was it even on target? Was it even on target? We don't.
Absolutely. So there's a hole. But like, listen, we started the season, we got shit on by VAR. All of a sudden, we're starting to get we're getting a little bit of luck. But look, you never know. But the thing for us, like we talk on most of the shows, the whole deal with VAR and the referees, it's so inconsistent. Like at times, it's a fucking bag of toys. You don't know what you're gonna get. Do you know what I mean? Just different referees, different VAR. It can be a bit of a joke at times. But I think last night you guys got the right decision. I think if that had been given, if I was a Palace fan, or that was given against us, I'd be fairly pissed now if I got that now.
And they've changed it anyways. They've changed who is it that came in for VAR? The ex-Premier League referee. His head has gone off my head. But anyways, they changed. Who was that? Sorry,
Mike Dean was originally in there. Is someone else? No.
There's a ex-Premier League referee who's in charge now of VAR, and basically he's changed things about. And I don't know if you guys have noticed that as well, but they basically want to use VAR as a last resort. Like if they want to stick with the referee's decision on the pitch. And I don't know if you guys have slightly noticed it. Maybe I definitely have. They're looking at less VAR decisions, and I'm seeing less decisions being made based on VAR. So I feel like that's the area we're going towards. So we had extreme levels of VAR. Now we're going to have barely any levels of VAR. So let's see how it works out.
It'd be a good thing.
Normally,
exactly. Just go back old school. If a striker is slightly in front, he's got to get the benefit of the doubt, man. This whole thing with the shoelace and the toenail,
like let's be honest.
It's ruining the game.
What does it matter if someone's kneecap is in front? It's not really going to make any difference, anyways. It's just sometimes I feel like with football, common sense needs to be used. I feel like some of the law, I understand it, laws are the laws, but some of the decisions that are made, it's just come on, just use a bit of common sense, especially with offsides. You can just see like there's no way he's going to catch up to him. They'll pretty much level.
I get the offside piece if a guy is 5 yards in front.
Yeah, but
like there was one against your game, Rashford's 5 yards in front, you get an offside. I get that, but when it's so close and you're looking at a striker's elbow being in front of a defender's knee. Like, just, it's that whole experience and excitement of that first goal. Striker or, midfielders looking around going, should I celebrate? Shouldn't I celebrate? Hang on, let's wait till he checks the camera. Let's wait for VAR to be checked. It's just, it's killing the game. Killing it.
They're trying to get away from it anyways. But let's see. I don't know about offside rules, but the other decisions are fair. I'm pretty sure I've noticed a difference in terms of VAR decisions as of recently.
There's one player I want to talk to you about before we kind of move on to the game and looking at how things will work out. Is that Wilfried Zaha, obviously still one of your main players in the team. He's got 6 months left on his contract. Yeah. Been more links again with potential moves even in this window. There was talks on that he posted some on social media that people thought he was going to be leaving. What is the situation with Zaha, and genuinely, do you think he could, one, leave in general? So is he gone in the summer, or could he even leave in January from your perspective?
So I'll start with January. 99% sure he's not leaving in January. I don't want to say 100% because you never say 100%, but he's not leaving in January because he's happy at Palace. Palace don't want to sell him unless there's a ridiculous offer that someone wants to pay, I don't know, 40 million for the last 6 months. That's not going to happen. So I don't think Wilfried Zaha is leaving in January. That I'm pretty confident about that. In the summer now, no one knows. We haven't been in this territory before. Under Roy Hodgson, he did want to leave. He was quite unhappy, and I understood it because we were playing negative football. We had no ambition as a football club, and it was just literally Zaha versus the rest. Yeah. But now he has that connection between Patrick Vieira and him. The relationship is very strong. You can see it on and off the pitch as well, based on the videos and how they talk about each other. And he seemed like he's enjoying his football. He's enjoying the type of football that we're playing. But saying that, no one really knows at Palace. And I don't think that Zaha himself has made the decision yet. And that's the first time this has ever happened, because before you would think, oh, Zaha wants to leave. His contract's going to run out. That's fine. He's gone. But nowadays, genuinely, no one knows. Vieira spoke about it. He said that he ideally wants to, we want to keep Wilf. We will try our best to keep him. But I don't think a decision is made that even journalists don't know. Like, he's just out there. I think he's exploring his options. I think he's taking his time to see where we're going. And we'll see in the summer. And hopefully he does stay with us. Because for me, yes, he can move on. And I wouldn't hold any grudge towards him moving on. But I'm worried about his future the most. Because if he joins a big club and it doesn't work out, I have a fear that it could be the end of his career. He can easily end up on benches of teams like the likes of, I don't know, Chelsea or United. It can happen. It can easily happen. And I don't want that to happen. I want him to play football till it literally can't physically continue. And I want that to happen at Palace. Of course, I'm biased. We wouldn't want Zaha to be playing at Palace as a Palace fan. But yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to stay or go. But in this window, he's not going.
No, there's always going to be those links with those type of players. We've had the same over the years. And I don't think he'll leave either in January, but I think it could well be that he leaves in the summer.
Essentially.
He moves on. But for you guys, I think you got the perfect man to evolve the team in Vieira. So I don't think it'll be the worst thing in the world. Look, we've got a number of questions that will fly at you. So Frederick has put in there, which Crystal Palace player could you see be sold for big money to a top club? So obviously Wilfried Zaha aside, because he's only got 6 months left on his contract.
Yeah. So
who else is there?
So I think it'll be Elise. Elise is a name that's been mentioned quite a few times. There's been interest from Chelsea. There's been interest recently from Lyon, which is, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, it's very frustrating because we're part of this multi-club ownership model, and one of our owners owns Lyon and Palace. So if he was to sell one of our better players to Lyon for his sake, that would be extremely frustrating. But I think it'll be Elise. And in a way, I would like it to be Elise because, one, I feel like it's easier to replace forwards than the likes of centre mids and centre backs. You can always find another right winger, but finding the ideal centre mid or the centre back, that can be difficult at times. And secondly, we have got options there as well. We've got youngsters that are coming through that could potentially step up to the plate as well. So if a player was to leave, I think it'll be Elise. But saying that, I believe there was a report that came out today, which was suggesting that basically if Zaha was to leave this summer, Palace wouldn't sell Elise as well. So I guess it depends on scenarios and what happens with Zaha and not. But if I had to pick one player, it would be Elise.
Interesting. Elise, he's a player that that Newcastle looked at. He's a top talent.
Of course, who haven't you guys looked at?
Yeah, well,
yeah,
everyone.
You're
right, definitely.
We're just lining most people up for Chelsea. That's all we're doing. Every time we look at someone,
exactly.
Todd's like, we need to get the checkbook out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chelsea.
You bid 30 million, Chelsea bid 60 million for him.
Exactly. The weird thing is, though, like Chelsea signed another one there tonight. Still, none of the positions that they actually need to fill. I'm just totally baffled. 650 million of a spend since August, and not the 2 positions they need to fill filled.
It's crazy.
Just don't get it. They spend a lot of money, but it seems like they haven't got a strategy. It's all a bit confusing, but we'll see if it works out.
Nobby Clark's put a question in there linked to money, actually, from a Palace perspective. What are Palace's finances like? Can they afford anyone in the window?
I'm laughing. The reason why I'm laughing is because literally a few hours ago, the report came out that one of our owners, we got so many owners now, it's beyond ridiculous. I miss the old Palace, but one of our owners who wants to list us in the New York Stock Exchange as part of his holding company, he's getting on to Steve Parish because he's saying Steve Parish ain't spending money. So Steve Parish runs the club day to day. This guy is meant to give him the money, and basically he's saying that Steve Parish is not spending the money. It's all a bit. I honestly have no clue about our finances. At the start of the window, there was a video that Steve Parish spoke about to Palace TV saying we were going to sign a couple of loan players. The way that the fans reacted to it, they put the video down. Now you got one of our owners that's telling our day-to-day, the guy that runs the club day-to-day, to spend a bit more money. But then why wouldn't Steve Parish spend money if he has that money? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, Steve Parish is the one that brought us out of the administration. He's a Palace fan. He's kept us in the Premier League for 10 years. And in honesty, who am I going to trust more? A Palace fan, the guy who's been with us for 10 years, or some guy that literally joined us last summer that wants to list us in the New York Stock Exchange and that has 3 other football clubs, and God knows what his intentions are with us. So it's all a bit confusing. I genuinely don't know about Palace's finances. But supposedly there is money, but that money is for this window and for summer. So I don't know if they want to spend in this window because, as you know, January will be more expensive. But saying that, we needed to spend in the summer, last summer, and we didn't. And it's just like, you didn't spend last summer, so you have to spend this window. But now you're saying this window is expensive. Well, we always know that January window is expensive. If you know about football, January is always a more expensive window. So if that's the case, then why didn't you buy these players in the summer? Like, why are you using that as an excuse? So, honestly, I have no clue. I expect a few signings, maybe on loan, but it might be last-minute signings. And right now, it's a bit of a shambles with our ownership.
No, look, we've both been linked with Conor Gallagher, potentially. So
yeah, he's going to you guys, man. He's not coming back to us. I don't think so. Funny enough, Gallagher, when we faced Chelsea, we had basically our players had a fight with Gallagher. His closest friend, one of his closest friends that he went to multiple clubs with on loan, Mark Gahey, he had a pretty. He was basically telling Gallagher to get up, do this, do that. It was pretty pissed off. But I don't think Gallagher's coming to Palace. I think he'll go to you guys. In honesty, I think that ship has sailed for us. And honestly, can we spend money on Gallagher? Our owners are having a fight as we speak. Like I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Madness. I didn't know about the ownership until you told me tonight. That's crazy. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. Look, Lisa's put in the chat as well. Hit the like button, everyone, or Daz will tell us off. Welcome, Daz, in the chat, one of the Loaded Mag members of the team. Make sure you get those likes and subscribes in. And join the Loaded family in the chat tonight. Some really good questions coming in, to keep them coming, guys. There's one here from Foxy. Now, you might know the player's name, but I haven't come across this player in particular. Did you?
Raksaki.
Yeah, Raksaki.
Yeah, that's the player. So that's the player I was talking about in terms of if we were to sell Elise, He's been out on loan at Charlton, but we've seen him at Palace as well at youth level, and he's also had a few appearances for the first team. I rate him highly. And it's just not Raksaki, there's Malcolm Mabue, which we sent out on loan to Hull City as well. But in terms of, do I think he will get a chance? Realistically, I think he's ready right now to have a squad role for us. I do. But the problem is there's Jordan Ayew, which Vieira loves. And then there's Elise down the right-hand side as well. So I think Raksaki potentially, if he was to get a chance, it might be in a few years' time. I don't see it happening anytime soon. He's doing very well at Charlton, and I expect him to come back and go out on loan maybe to another championship club this time around rather than a League One club. So yeah, Raksaki, massive. I rate him massively, and I don't, because as Palace fans, we sometimes overrate academy players because we've had some very good academy players. As soon as we see someone that's half decent academy level, we think, oh, bring him to the first team. I'm not that type of person. I think you have to be a bit sensible with it. Academy level and first team level is completely different. But with Raksaki, it is one of them players that I genuinely do feel like he can play first team football and to a role to a certain extent for a Premier League club because he's very skillful on the ball.
Right. Interesting. Keep an eye out for that, Foxy. Class as always. I'm sure you know about Matheus Franca, Foxy, so get your opinions in the chat, that's for sure. Daz has put there, has Marty got the runs, he's off screen more than on it. No, he hasn't got the runs, don't worry about that, Daz. He's just gone to run a quick errand in the house and he'll be back in his bar in no time. One or two other questions before we move on. Question for D from Michael. Palace are always mid-table, it feels. Are you happy with that, or do you feel the club should be pushing for more? Good question, Michael.
Very good question. And we should be pushing for more. We've been in the Premier League for about 10 years now. We're approaching 10 years. I think this is the season. And we want to be a top 10 club. And we understand it's not going to be easy, but the ambition is just so confusing right now. When we signed Patrick Vieira, the first window that we had under him, bringing in the likes of Anderson, Gahey, Elise, Edward, Conor Gallagher on loan, we made some quality signings, and it seemed like finally we're about to be serious. We're about to be serious about pushing up the table rather than to focus on staying up. But then saying that, we had a summer of just signing one or two very good players, but we didn't sign enough. And when you look at our net spend over the summer, I think we was in a bottom 3 in terms of net spend. We didn't build on what we had last season. So we, as a fan base, we want to be a top 10 club. But with the owners that we got right now, Pete, it just, I honestly don't know what to expect. We've got billionaires, don't get me wrong. We've got billionaires in Harrison Blitzer, who owned the 76ers, an NBA team, and a bunch of other clubs over in America. But every time a bigger club becomes available, such as the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool, straight away we hear reports that they're interested in buying them and bidding us off straight away. So they're not in it at Palace for the long run. We've got John Textor, who is just literally bought shares into us last year, I believe, or 2 years ago during the COVID season. I don't know what his intentions are, because he seemed like he created a company, and in that company he owns 3 or 4 other football clubs. And now he wants to list that in the New York Stock Exchange. Now, what does that mean for Palace? See, this is what I'm saying. We got so many people involved with the club, whereas before it was just Steve Parish and other people that kept us safe in the Premier League. And we needed investors. I 100% get that. But I feel like now Steve Parish, I'm wondering if he's regretting the option of just selling the club and selling portions of the club to people like Textor and Harrison Blitzer, because I don't know if they're in it for the long run. And you need investment to be able to be a top 10 club. You see the likes of Brentford and Leeds and other clubs around us that are spending good money, and we having owners that are arguing with each other. That's saying you should be spending more, and then the other one saying don't tell me what to do. Like it seems a bit silly. So ideally, the ideal scenario for me would be Steve Parish and a very wealthy owner that actually has interest in growing Crystal Palace as a football club. Like your owners. Your owners are not doing it for the business element as well. They're doing it because they want to make Newcastle a better club. Whereas right now, with our current owners and talking about listing your football club on a stock exchange, that's a business move. I understand it's I understand, look, the Premier League is still business, of course, but now it's become a playground for the rich. And if you try to do everything tight, and if you try to list your club up to the stock exchange and then try to appeal investors by, getting in higher profits and then trying to spend less, it's not going to help you in the long run. So for us to be a top 10 club, our owners need to be serious. And right now, I don't think we've got that serious owners to push us into that next level, because it's Steve Parish and then a bunch of like probably 6-7 other investors, and God knows what their motives are.
No, I think you've made a really good point. And look, we as Newcastle fans know how you feel, because we had similar situations with that lack of investment in the club to take you to that next level. Is that you need that, and you know, Brighton have done it a slightly different way and have got successful from it, because they had a really, really good scouting network and have been really successful time after time after time. They've not really missed. They've hit every time on a player. Brentford have spent money. Leeds are spending money, exactly what you said. Even Forest are pushing up there, and they've spent more than us this year. Like they're spending crazy money. And it is a risk, though. It is a risk. Like you can be a Brighton and be successful, or you can be a West Ham and spend 180 million. Lawless knows about that more than anybody.
Talk about Lawless. I wonder how he's doing tonight. I feel sorry for him, man. He's going through it right now. I can tell.
Do you really feel sorry for him, though? Do you really?
I told him, you better hope that you win that Conference League, because once he's out of it, he's not. Yeah, I'm not stopping because he's been talking loads, bro, this season. He's been talking loads. But look quickly about the owners. For me, of course, you want billionaire owners because they have the resources. But having billionaire owners without them taking direct interest in a club, it means nothing to me. And we have billionaire owners right now, but are they putting the money where their mouth is? I don't think so. I mean, I get it. We built a new academy site. We built a new stadium. But realistically, that's not enough, because other Premier League clubs are doing that while spending money in the transfer window. I mean, you can't just be that tight to say we're building a new stand. We're not even building a new stadium. We're building a new stand. I know we built a new academy site, and that's our limits. That can't be our limits. I mean, if you want to, if you've got that many investors, I'm pretty sure they're all wealthy. You could put the money in. You could put the money in to actually grow this club. But that's what I'm saying. They're tight. They're one of the ownership group. They don't even see their future at the club. So why do you? I mean, is it a shock that they're not putting the money where the mouth is? I'm not. I don't think so. I think it's pathetic. And until we get this ownership thing sorted out, and you know, whether these owners go or stay, I think we're going to be stuck in this level, because we need investment, and it's not happening right now. But hopefully that changes, anyways.
Yeah, let's wait and see. Hopefully your luck changes just like ours did just over a year ago. But look, let's get into the match day. Let's talk about the match. Let's talk about the lineups and all the other things. But of course, let's get some stats.
Evening, lads.
Good evening, Keith. Double O Stato, how are you, my man?
Yeah. Just a little bit cold, I think, today. You know, just a wee bit. You know, just trying to keep warm in these times. You know.
Yes, definitely. There is a cold snap up and down the country, that is for sure. But great to have you on, Keith. Double O Stato. We're back again with Palace, and look, I think both sides of the coin, both Dee and myself, are looking for some positive news on stats in the run up to this game. So, what you got for us this week?
Yeah, you know, I would say it's fairly optimistic. You know, there's certainly points for both clubs. Got some head-to-heads stats. Got some manager stats as well. A couple of stats for the players as well, and some general stats. So, going into it, the overall record in this fixture for Newcastle: played 53. Won 30, drawn 11, and lost 12. The head-to-head record in the Premier League, 23 games, and Newcastle have got 11 wins compared to 5 wins for Palace and 7 draws. So slightly favours Newcastle in the Premier League era. Newcastle have scored more goals as well in this fixture, 28 compared to 20 for Crystal Palace. And also, Newcastle have got the better defensive record as well, 12 clean sheets compared to 5 for Crystal Palace. Eddie Howe as a manager. Bit of a mixed record against Palace, given obviously now going back to his Bournemouth days. 16 games, won 5, drawn 5, and lost 6. And Patrick Vieira's record against Newcastle, 4 games, no wins in those 4 games, 2 draws and 2 defeats. And moving on to some players here, Wilfried Zaha, 6 goals in 12 games for Palace this season, and Sonny Edouard, 4 goals in 13, are the top goal scorers for Palace so far this season. Goalkeepers, Nick Pope has 11 clean sheets compared to Vicente Guadiata with 4 clean sheets. Palace doing well as well there in between the sticks there. Some general stats. Newcastle have only scored more than 1 goal in only 1 of their 13 Premier League games with Crystal Palace since 2014. So quite a low scoring game, this one, in the last 8 years or so for both clubs. Crystal Palace, now this impressed me about Crystal Palace, showed their real battling quality so far this season. Crystal Palace have secured 13 points from losing positions in the Premier League this season. Only Tottenham have, with 14 points, have recovered more. Although some Tottenham fans won't be happy about giving away 2 goals every game, but and coming back in the second half. But I thought that was really impressive, that from Palace, showing their battling qualities. Palace, though, have lost their last 8 home league games on a Saturday with a 5:30 kickoff, Saturday evening kickoff. They've scored 6 and conceded 19 in this run, and the last win on a Saturday evening was against Tottenham in January 2015. So about 8 years since Palace have won on a Saturday evening. Newcastle fans will be hoping that stays the same just for the short time being. Newcastle have kept a clean sheet in their last 5 games, and that's the longest run ever really in the top flight. They've also as well, the 11 goals they've conceded so far is the fewest after 19 games for Newcastle in any top flight season for Newcastle. And Newcastle are unbeaten in 14 Premier League games, winning 9 and drawing 5. And that is their record, joint record. They've never gone 15 without defeat in top flight history. That rounds off the stats for this evening.
Great stats as always, and like you said, it was a bit of a mixed bag. There were some positive ones in there for Palace, and 1 or 2 positive ones in there for Newcastle as well. So there's some good stats, that's for sure. It's going to be an interesting one. Look, we'll get your thoughts on it soon, Keith. Myself and Mark weren't too confident in this game, but Dee's buoyant going into this game after a good result last night. So it's going to make for a good game, and I'm glad it's on Sky. I'm glad it's under the lights at Selhurst Park, because I think it'll make for a really, really good atmosphere. But look, from my perspective, let's look at the teams. So, Dee, I didn't actually ask you for your predicted lineup, but I've gone with this. Yeah. Hopefully, you can see it on the screen. I've gone with the same team that he went with against Man United. Whether he will change 1 or 2, I'm not sure. Do you think anyone will come in? Eze, maybe? I don't know.
So the changes that I expect is the backline will remain the same. The goalkeeper will remain the same. There's a slight worry. Hopefully he doesn't do this, but the way he talked about it afterwards, after the game, that basically no one got dropped. It was rotation, so there's going to be changes for the Newcastle game.
Right.
I hope to God that he keeps Hughes there alongside Doucouré and doesn't bring Jeffrey Schlupp. So I think them 2 remain the same. But in terms of the front 4, kind of, Mateta and Edouard, I think Mateta will potentially get dropped. And instead of Mateta, you could potentially see Jordan Ayew there starting in that role. And Edouard going up front. But it's a bit hard to say because he made a lot of change. Well, he made changes that he normally wouldn't expect Vieira to do in that last game. So I don't know if he'll stick with the same group of players. But based on what he said, he's going to make changes for the Newcastle game. Hopefully, it's not a lot, and I think it could potentially be that one. If it's just the one with I coming in for Mateta, I don't think many Palace fans will be upset with that.
No, it's an interesting team. I don't really know too much about Decore. I think he was one of your new signings this season.
Yeah, he very good holding midfielder. I mean, as I said, he's been basically playing midfield by himself. He's been like our only midfielder because majority of the games he's been playing with the likes of Jeffrey Schlupp. But then yesterday, when you had Will Hughes there, it eased that pressure off him. Very good in terms of on the ball, can pick out a pass, good with the tackling as well. And he's just a proper number 6, a modern number 6 that can connect to defense, get the ball from the defense, link up with the attackers, and also under pressure, he's comfortable on the ball. And playing Will Hughes next to him absolutely helped him yesterday.
Interesting. Keith, look, I'll come to you. Bruno Guimaraes missing. Huge miss. I'll just bring Mark back in. Welcome back, Mark.
Thanks, lads. Apologies.
Don't worry.
I'll tell you, it's a very simple story. I'm actually, as you know, Pete, I'm redecorating. I just had somebody come and buy my old couch because I have a new one coming. So I do apologize, mate. Doesn't know.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah,
doing his deals on loaded time.
Doing my deals on loaded time. Yeah. No, to be fair, girl was coming up from Dublin. She got stuck in traffic and stuff. So yeah, I do apologize.
No, don't worry. Dee's just giving his perspective on what he thinks the Palace team is going to be. And look, this is the team that I put together. Obviously, the loss of Bruno Guimaraes is massive. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like it's going to be for too long. So as I think most Newcastle fans would think, he's brought Joe Linton off the left back into midfield. I've actually kept Joe Willock on this left-hand side because I think he plays really well down there. Put Joe on the right, and then I brought ASM back into this on the left-hand side. If he's ever going to get an opportunity to start, this is probably it, really. And he's looked decent in his last couple of cameo appearances, in my opinion. But then the rest of the teams itself, the back five is the back five, 11 clean sheets. Longstaff, I have to be honest, guys, and lads and lasses in the chat, I think I was probably quite harsh on Longstaff in our review after the Fulham game. Having watched it back a couple of times, I actually thought he played quite well. His work rate and his ability on the ball, particularly when we lost Bruno, I thought was really good. I think I was quite harsh on him. Definitely a better performance for sure. So
you know what it is with Longstaff, Pete. We said it. It was just the finishing at the back end, his work rate, his endeavour, breaking up the ball. His performances off the ball are outstanding.
Yeah,
it's just that final bit. So you're right.
Yeah, like I say, I was personally a bit harsh with him. I think I was just angry because he just kept missing chances. And like you said, Mark, the one thing about him that frustrates me is that he gets in, out of all the midfielders, he probably gets in the best positions of the lot, but because he gets 3 or 4 good chances in the game, we just want him to take at least 1 or 2 of them, and he doesn't. And even sometimes the final ball is not great, but everything else, like you said, about his game is great. Gone with the same team. I've gone Wilson to start up top, which leaves us the likes of Isak coming off the bench. Look, Mark, I'll come to you first. Like, do you agree with that? Would you change anything? What do you make of that team? And I'll ask you as well, and I'll ask Dee the same from the opposite side of things. Is it where do you think Newcastle can win the game at Selhurst Park with the 2 teams set up like this?
Look, we know Bruno's a loss, but I think there's still enough there. I think key for us, and I think I'm sure Dee will probably say the same. Defensively, we've the best defense in the league. We're not shipping too many goals. I think we've gone a little bit goal shy. We're creating the chances, but we're not finishing them. So that's probably my only concern. I think ASM is the right one to start. I think is probably where Eddie will go. Almiron's still in great form, but he's kind of the little golden touch he had is kind of slipping away a fraction. He's been unlucky a couple of times. Yeah. I think we'll be strong enough in midfield with that 3. Joe Linton is in good form. Willock can be hit and miss, but I thought he played really well at the weekend. I'd like to see a goal from him. So I think with the defensive piece that we've got, as Dee said, it depends on which Palace turn up and whether they cause us problems on the counter. I think we'll be strong enough to maintain that. So, albeit I kind of said a draw, I think we've probably got the stronger team on paper. I think we're probably the more informed team, and I think that defense, should Palace kind of have anything in that attack, depending on, as Dee said, does Eze start? How do they line up? What do they do? Does Richards keep his place? Does that inexperienced play? He pocketed Rashford. Does he do the same with Miggy? It's kind of, you kind of hard to know. Does he, is he able to keep a hold of, Isaac if he comes on? But I think we've enough. I know people will probably kill me for this because they'll say I'm anti-ASM. I'm not, but I would like to see Isaac start on that left. I'd just be interested to see what him and Wilson could do. We know he can play on the left because we've seen it with Sweden, and we've seen it prior with Real Sociedad. So yeah, that's my only question.
Well, you know what? It's not. Yeah. And
I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to ASM bash. By the way.
No, the reason why I say that is because Geordie Jack in the chat is mentioned something similar. Actually, let me just go back up. He's just clicked on there. 4-2-4.
And the reason I say it, Pete, and you know this, is because of Eddie's comments the other week, which is about the two lads playing together in the same team.
Yeah.
And I don't. And the reason I mention Isaac as opposed to ASM is the fact that Eddie talks about the two playing together, but I don't see him changing the formation. So to do that, I think he has to play Isaac on the left because I don't see him moving Wilson out. That's the only reason I mention it from a formation point of view.
This is obviously we're switching sort of Joe Linton. Joe Linton was here. This is kind of how we set up in the last part of the game against Fulham, chasing the win. So Isaac was played in the number 10, and Eddie Howe
was playing as a 10. Yeah, exactly.
He was kind of coming in here. Wilson playing in and around the middle. We had this is how we set up. And you know what, Mark? I haven't got an issue with this. I haven't even got an issue with this either. I haven't got an issue with this. Willock here, Longstaff here, Joe Linton on the left, or vice versa. I haven't got an issue with that. The only thing I think of is that it's away from home. And when you're away from home, you have to be to a certain extent, even in the early parts of the game, just a little bit cautious. But
I was going to say, I think that exactly. I think you're 100% right, Pete, because I think for the first 15, 20 minutes, Eddie will want to be compact in that midfield. Yeah. So I think for those reasons, he'll go with the ASM piece and he'll move Joe in, because I think Joe Linton gives us that bit more strength and robustness through the middle. So for that reason, I think he'll set up the way you have it there. But I think if the game is still a 0-0, if Palace are not causing us many problems, I think second half around the 60, I think you see ASM go off if we've not broke through. And I think you see Isaac coming on more so. As you said, he'll make that change, pushing out, and he'll drop Isaac in behind Wilson.
Keith, you agree with those points from Martin?
Couldn't have said it better than Martin there. To be honest, I think keeping it compact in the first half, keeping a clean sheet at half time certainly, and look to push on if Newcastle haven't already scored in the second half. And Newcastle do have the meanest defence in the Premier League at the moment, so I can see obviously Newcastle staying compact and absorbing what Palace have got. These games have been tight over the years, for the last 8 years, as alluded to in the stats. So you go into the second half, if nobody's scored, Isaac would be the man, wouldn't he? I'd look to build on that experience. And recently, Andy Cole even said that Isaac could be the player to take Newcastle to the next level, in terms of up front. So I was over the moon with his goal that he got the winner against Fulham, and maybe he can build on that against Palace.
Definitely. No, I think you're right. I think again, great points, Keith. Look, Dee, from your perspective, where can Palace win the game? Where are your strengths? Where do you think? Look, it's 11 clean sheets. This defense is it's been fantastic. Pope, I think, what is it? 600 hours, or may even been more than that since he's last conceded. Something crazy. Where can you win the game potentially at Selhurst Park on Saturday?
It's a difficult one. I mean, when you look at the midfield, I think Will Hughes and Decore, if Hughes does play, I think Hughes and Decore can be a very good partnership in short term, anyways, for short term solution. So that would be interesting to see how they fare against the likes of Joe Linton and Willock. And then when you're looking at your back line, of course, the best defense in the Premier League, but we've got players there as well. And I'm just looking at some of the matches. I'll be honest, I don't watch Newcastle week in, week out. I barely have time to watch Palace at certain stages. But when you look at some of the names there, Dan Burn versus Elise, I think that's a very interesting battle there in terms of Elise's footwork. And I wonder how that fares up with Dan Burn. And in terms of Zaha versus Trippier. But in honesty, in this game, I think it's going to be extremely tight. And the reason why I think that is we had a tight game at your ground, but Eddie Howe, whilst at Bournemouth, he did come to Palace a few times, and he knows that Selhurst Park can be a bit troublesome at times for the opposition teams, especially if the Palace fans are on form, and if we got a bit of momentum, which we're coming into this game with a bit of momentum. So I think it's going to be a very tight game, but I think it's the midfield area that I'm looking out for. And in terms of our attack, I think that in a way we got the names there, but we haven't scored that many goals. So I won't be surprised if we keep a clean sheet, but I don't think there'll be that many goals in this game. In all honesty, I feel like it's gonna be a very interesting tactical battle with both teams getting certain advantages, and maybe Saint Maximin against Nathaniel Klein. That's one to watch out for. I want to see how Callum Wilson does against Richards and Gahey, because they were very good. And if they stop the likes of Rashford, who also went through the middle second half, then you expect them to also have a good game against Callum Wilson. So overall, I think it's going to be very tight. I think this game is genuinely going to be very tight. But I think if you win the midfield battle, you create chances like that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And like you said, we've got two tactical managers coming up against each other, which will always make for a good game. You mentioned Wilson. Wilson's not the same type of player as Rashford. Rashford likes to get in behind and with that pacing in there. And that's what Wilson's game used to be. Now he likes to bully the centre-backs. He likes to hold the ball up big and strong. He'll drag. You'll see in game, he'll drag the likes of Gay and equally Richards into these channels to allow the likes of Joe and Willock, Joe Linton and Willock, to try and get into these little spots from midfield. You'll see these guys breaking time and time again to come and join the attack. So don't be surprised to see centre backs be dragged here and there, and he'll just look to mop up anything that comes into this area. And that's his game at the moment. But it was interesting you mentioned from the beginning, and this is where I think Newcastle will win the game, and it's from this position here with this man and this position here and this man. Our wings will make the difference in this game, because what you'll find is that you'll see Almiron here, and then you'll see Trippier here, and he will. The reason why I put his starting position up here is because he is not your traditional right back, and he will play very high up the pitch. And you'll see Shaw move over to here, Botman here, and then play as a 3 centre back. So although he will match up against him, it won't be a set left back situation. You'll probably find it will be set up like this at times, and Shaw will be trying to deal with Zaha there. And we'll make those overlaps.
I think there's more times as well, Pete. I think you'll actually see that matchup with where you've got Burn and Olise there. I actually think that matchup as the game goes on will become more Botman and Olise, because I think you'll see that switch, because what you do tend to see, in particular if we are getting a bit of trouble down that side, is you do tend to see Botman move that way and mop up, and Burn comes just slightly further in. So I think if again, tactically, Eddie sees that if Burn is getting a little bit of trouble down that side, I think you'll see Botman kind of push further out that way, not being in a left back position as such. Maybe with Byrne coming in, but I think you'll see Botman kind of push more to the left to deal with that if there is a threat there.
And let's not forget, we're an incredibly fit side. So what you'll find is that Willett will come back and support here, and Joe Linton will come back and support here, and you'll see that you'll see them making these runs time and time again over the course of 90 minutes. And I think as the game goes on, the fact that you play Wednesday could well help us later on in the game when we're probably still really fit and running up and down and covering a lot of space, pressing high. You guys may start to tire. So it's one to look out for. But they're really, really interesting how it could be won. I think you mentioned it earlier, Dee, that set pieces could be the difference for Palace and where you guys nick a goal or two. So we're going to have to definitely keep an eye out for that one. But again, tactically, it's going to be really, really interesting. That is for sure. Before we start wrapping up and going for predictions, any more questions in the chat, Mark, that we can ask?
Did you go through some of the ones while I was away? Did you?
I've got rid of a few. Actually, just before that, I think we've had a few new members. So Dougie Morris, thank you for becoming a member of Loading Mag NUFC, and welcome back to Shane Mawson, all the way from down under.
Welcome back, Shane.
Back to the Loaded family. There's a few questions here.
A few questions around Vieira. What's Dee's view on how good a job do you think Vieira's done so far at Palace?
So it depends on the fans that you ask. There's kind of a split now. I think that's down to the results and frustration building up. For me, I feel like Vieira has done a very solid job with the group of players that he's got. Last season, we went to the FA Cup semi-final, and we had games where we were unlucky not to get the wins rather than lucky to get the draws, if that makes sense. When we're drawing games, we was going on the right side in terms of style of play. This season, as I said, we regressed as a squad, and there's only so much Vieira can do. And there's been talks about from some of our fans that saying, look, I'm not saying Vieira is faultless. As I said myself, Vieira is still growing on the job. And there's been some points of the season where he should have played the likes of Will, who's more often than Jeffrey Schlupp in midfield, and some other plays over, some of these players that he trusted a bit too much. Of course, there is some mistake with the manager with some of these results. End of the day, the manager picks the team. But there's only so much they can do. He hasn't been backed properly. And it frustrates me when some of our fan base say, oh, get rid of Vieira and bring in the likes of Sean Dyche. Well, you're taking a step back. I mean, we tried to do something different. And the reason why it hasn't worked out, the real reason is not down to Vieira and his tactics, is purely down to him not getting backed enough. Instead of putting your frustration into Vieira, how about you put your frustration into the owners and let them spend a bit more money? Because we barely spent this year and we needed to spend to build on that. But let alone that, we regressed as a squad. We got rid of players and we didn't replace these quality players. And you expect Vieira to do miracles. Let me just say this. I love Nathaniel Klein to bits, but what other Premier League club does Nathaniel Klein start for in 2023 as a right back?
Yeah.
Or
actually seen something on Twitter today. Somebody said, how in this day and age is Nathaniel Klein still playing Premier League football?
It's the truth. Even like Jordan Ayew, even the likes of Jordan Ayew, who's been playing for, and the reason for that is because the other players that we got alternatives. One, that sometimes they're not good enough, and two, he just hasn't had the investment. We just don't have the squad depth to be a top 10 club. So for me, Vieira has done a very solid job. Of course, there's been some faults this season, which I would have liked to see improvements. But then again, I'm happy with Vieira because I want him to grow on the job. And he's going to have these hiccups. It's part of it. He's still a fairly young manager. And from what I've seen in terms of the positives and the style of football that he wants to play, if he does get backed and if he doesn't work out, fair enough. But at least back him and then see if it works out or not. Because right now, that hasn't been the case.
Yeah. Okay, quick one from Tom then before we get into predictions, kind of last one. Question for D. So from the Newcastle perspective, you said you don't watch them week in, week out, but who are you worried about from our squad that you think is going to cause Palace problems?
There's a few players. I think Almiron, of course, that's going to be an interesting battle because I think Tyreek Mitchell, who's been struggling at some points of the season, but he had a red card against Fulham when we did come back from the World Cup, I believe, or first game back at Sellers, and he was out for 3 games. Then he came back against Chelsea. We saw improvements, and even against Manchester United, we're seeing glimpses of the old Tyreek. So I want to see how that fares out. I think with Almiron, and also I think in midfield, Joe Linton is very strong, very physical, and we just don't have that strong physical midfielder. So I wonder if Joe Linton bullies our midfield and finds his way through. I think it's going to be some interesting battles there. And say Maximan, which I don't know, Pete, you remember, I don't rate him as highly. I don't. But saying that, Vieira
don't fucking start him off, D. Don't start him off. Don't start him off.
Saying that, I didn't know this till the other day, but Vieira has actually managed Saint Maximin at Nice, so they know each other.
It was the reason why he left to come to Newcastle, because they fell out.
Is it?
That'll be interesting in the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, especially on the left-hand side, I could see him scoring and running to the bench and giving Vieira.
ASM has a point of proof on Saturday.
Yeah,
he does. Yeah.
Well,
maybe he hits a scream. Maybe he hits a screamer like he did against Wolves. You know.
Yeah, let's see. He doesn't really score that many, does he? But
they are memorable when he scores.
Yeah.
It's half time at the Etihad. Can't believe it. Spurs are 2-0 up.
2-1.
They're the winners club out there.
They did that last season.
Haaland missed. I would say it has to be one of the sitters of the season with a header. When you see it, you'll see it. Unbelievable. Should have scored. But Spurs win.
They did that last season, though, didn't the Spurs win at the Etihad last season in February? When City had a bit of a wobble, so maybe City are having that wobble again.
The defending is truly horrific from both of those goals. The defending is absolutely horrific.
But to be fair, we put 3 past them, and we spoke about it after we played City at St James's. They're great going forward, but they cannot defend.
Yeah.
They can't defend.
Yeah. Even we scored 2 goals against them at their ground this season, and that was without Zaha. And we've struggled to score goals this season. So there's a liability. It's an opportunity for you guys, though. I mean, if City's losing, if you beat us, then I'm pretty sure you go above City. Or
we would go second. But for us, we want the gap widened from 4th to 5th.
Don't worry about second. Yeah,
you got another problem. I mean, you can't win today. Then
that's it. Is that I think most fans would have wanted Spurs to lose today to keep that potential gap.
Everybody in the chat is talking about City, so
it's a shame. But look, there's still another half of football. Let's wait and see. But look, guys. Let's get round to predictions. So let's say 7:30 Saturday at the game at Selhurst Park. What are we saying the score's going to be? Mark, I'll start with you.
I agree with D as much as we're in form, got great defence. I think Palace have players to worry us. So I agree with him. I think it's going to be a tight game. Away from home, I will go with a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. Interesting. Michael Palmer's gone 0-0. People in the chat, get your score predictions in.
Get your predictions in, yeah.
Go on then, D. From a Palace perspective, what are you thinking the scoreline is going to be on Saturday?
Honestly, I would be extremely surprised if it ain't 0-0 or 1-0 Newcastle. I don't know what it is. Saying this watch is going to be like 3-2 or something crazy like that now. But I genuinely think it's going to be a tight game. As Keith said with the scores between us, there hasn't been more than 1 goal in a lot of games that we played against each other. So I honestly think it's going to be a tight game. But I would happily take a 0-0. I'm going to go for 0-0.
0-0. Okay.
Yeah. Lisa's gone. Our super mod Lisa, who's watching the Man City game, has obviously not been watching the show. She's gone. I'm going 3-0 Isaac hat-trick. So there you go. Geordie Tune for life, regular viewer. Evening, buddy. He's gone for a 2-0 win. Dazzler, our own Dazzler, has gone for 2-0. Radiator Russ is going for 3-1. Nobby hasn't put anything up. He's just saying we've got the best defense. And and Alan's going sell Haaland. He's a waste of money. There you go. So yeah, most in the chat obviously going for Newcastle. There's also going 2-0 to the Toon. So yeah, that seems to be 2-0 seems to be coming up quite a lot, and there's a couple of 3-1s.
So we've had
that could also happen. I don't see us scoring a goal. Or if we do score, it might just be one. So I could definitely see like a 2-0 Newcastle as well. But I think it should be a tight game based on what
we did actually get that in the chat. D, somebody said Palace don't score unless they're getting a free kick. There you go.
Yeah, we hardly get any, so we basically don't normally score.
So we've had. Am I right thinking, Mark? Just a reminder: 1-1 was yours.
1-1 was mine, mate. Yep.
0-0 for D. Now, Keith, are you going to be on the fence again, or are you going to go? Are you going to go confident Newcastle United win? What are we going to go for?
6-0 away win, just like QPR. We're going to get a double hat trick. You're going to get Isaac a hat trick, and you're going to get you're going to get ASM and get a couple from him as well. No, I'm only joking. Now I'm going to talk some sense now. Yeah, absolutely. It's I can see 3 outcomes for this one. You know, I think there's some truth in what D says. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised if Palace nick it with a free kick, because Van Aanholt a few years ago, just before the pandemic, he put a screamer in, didn't he, against Newcastle to win it, Selhurst. But again, true to form, it's either going to be won late on by 1 goal from Newcastle, or it's going to be a 1-1er. Just like Marty was saying, really, it's going to be. I think Palace yesterday, that point against United, brilliant point, a brilliant goal from them late on, right at the death. That's going to do them the world of good, really, for the confidence. And it's going to be rocking on Saturday evening. Is Selhurst Park. I think it's going to be really difficult. Newcastle aren't going to be without Bruno. What's that going to do? I think Isaac 1-1 Newcastle.
Ooh, he's at 1-1. He's even gone for the scorer. I think Newcastle will win. I think it'll be a tight game. I'm going to go 2-1. I think Newcastle will win 2-1. I do think Palace may score in this game. They might even score first, but I think Newcastle will end up winning the game. I know it's a tough one for me. I could have quite easily gone 2-2, 1-1 and took a point, but I want to try and be positive and say we're going to get a win. So 2-1 for me, Newcastle. We've got our predictions in. So many in the chat have mentioned their predictions as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. That is for sure. But look, before we go, make sure you click that like on the way out. Make sure you click that subscribe. Come and join the channel, the loaded channel. D, just before we go, where can we find you and your channel, mate?
Yeah, so at Back of the Nest, you can find us there. We just do a bunch of different Palace content right now. It's popping off with the owners, with the games going in behind, match previews, match reactions. And yeah, so thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. And
welcome, man. Good to meet you.
Many in the chat are saying, obviously, you're a great guest. There's many that would have watched you before when you've been on. So thank you for joining. And of course, Keith, 00 Stato, great stats.
00 Stato, as always.
Opinions. And Mark, absolutely top stuff. Thanks for joining us tonight, as always.
Pleasure to be part of Away Days, as always.
Definitely. And look, everyone in the chat, great comments and opinions in the chat. Radiator Russ, I think, is going.
Oh man, I didn't actually mean to say that. It just kind of slipped out. You know, and now he's to be fair, he's getting a fair bit of grief in the chat. So yeah, Russ, I apologize. Yeah, just kind of came out, but you know it's going to stick.
Definitely. And look, if you want your radiators, this is the place to be. The Radiator Shed. Oh yeah.
Sorry, pal.
No worries. Radiatorshed.com. So get in there. We've got D and Keith trying to avoid being in the prison.
Look at Keith, yeah, trying to get out of it.
I'm locked up.
He's in there. He's in there. And of course, top quality materials made from plate steel, providing longevity. All designs are manufactured in Italy. Aluminium rads are very environmentally friendly and are perfect for heat source pumps. And they offer a survey service and will install if required. And look, Radiator Russ, he is the man, as you can tell. Lots of
Pete,
great
you're doing me absolutely no favors here, Pete. Keep saying that. God almighty. I'm trying to get out of it, and you just keep blowing it up. Thanks.
It's good to stick it. It just stays in my head. But get involved in that, and of course, become a member. Can only do it on laptop. Click that blue button. $1.99 a month. Got 3 new members tonight. Thank you for joining the Lowly family. And of course, we are on our way to 6K now because we hit our 5K last week. Thank you for all those that have subscribed. Keep subscribing to the channel. And we will be back for more. We'll be back for a review for Palace, I believe, on Sunday. So keep in touch with all things Newcastle United on Instagram and Twitter. Boys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dee. I'm sure I'm going to be joining you at some point to do a quick review on your channel. So look out for that one. And we do love playing away. You guys take care. How do you like that?
Take it easy.
How you like